lovely September afternoon, and what a wonderful time it is to connect with you. Welcome to the Sandton Times podcast, today on location in Dullstroom, which is really exciting. So if you hear some background noise as well, it's because we're not where we normally are when we do this podcast, and I'm so thrilled to have you tune in, listen, stream, download this podcast as you always do every single week. If you want to reach out to us, it's editor@sandtontimes.co.za, and you can also connect with us on social media at Sandton Times. Then there's also the blog, www.sandtontimes.co.za, and then you can subscribe, share, and leave a review or rating for this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, SoundCloud, and YouTube. It's episode 25, week 38 of 2020. Can you believe it? And I welcome all of our listeners in Greater Sandton and beyond. Funny enough, this week we also had somebody listening from Sri Lanka, which is great. And all is well in Sandton land, although we're not in Sandton land this week. As I said, we are in Mpumalanga, in Dullstroom. Before we do anything else, apologies for last week's episode. We hit the road with our on-location recordings and didn't realize how little reception there is in many of the outer hinterlands of South Africa. So it was unbelievably difficult to upload last week's episode. So I'm really sorry about that. But I guess you get a double serving or a quadruple serving of the Sandton Times this week. So that's the upside to it. So you're going to have a little bit more to listen to. So sorry about that, but the connectivity has been a bit dicey to try and work around. Yeah, so then this podcast continues to be fueled by DeLonghi Coffee, even though we're not close to our bean to cup machine this week. It's a bit of a different format as we are on the road and things are kind of very different and a very different environment. And I'm hoping that you'll be able to kind of get the best out of this podcast as much as possible. Look, as tourism opens up, other podcasts are talking about what it's like and the fantastic specials you can get of going to lodges and how is COVID-19 impacting tourism travels. But we decided to take an extended tour of a few great destinations to get a first-hand feel of what travel and tourism under lockdown and during COVID-19 looks like. And if you have access to YouTube, well, you'll be able to watch and listen to this week's podcast to get a bit of a feel of our surroundings. So we've added some additional video content to this podcast so you can just have a look and see where we are and what it looks like and just get a bit of a feel for it. It's our completely mobile studio. We're on location. If you hear some background ambient sounds, it's because we're not only in Dullstroom, but specifically at Walkersons Hotel and Spa. It's just absolutely beautiful. If I just sort of take a look around, there's the fantastic rolling hills, there's the sort of forests, there's lakes all over. So if you're into trout fishing, this is just a wonderful place to come to. It's very peaceful. It's just a place to sort of just unplug and unwind. It's just another beautiful corner of South Africa, and the trees are sort of blowing in the wind, and you might be able to hear some activities in the background as some of the gardeners are also looking after the property, cutting the lawn and just sort of making sure everything looks as pristine as it does. And in a moment I'm going to introduce my guest for this week. Christie, General Manager here at Walkersons Hotel and Spa.
That's me.
Okay,
Hi.
It's good to have you on the podcast.
It's great to have you staying with us here at Walkersons.
Well, Kay, thank you so much for having us. We've been having such a lovely time, even though it's unbelievably windy outside today. I don't know why. Is that quite often that happens?
It's a little bit late in the year for the winds, but hopefully it's going to bring our first rains of the season. We're desperate for the summer rains to start, so we're hoping it's blowing in some clouds.
So we can't complain about that.
No.
We always need rain in Africa. Let it blow. Let the wind carry on. Kate, tell us a little bit more about Walkersons, a little bit about the history, about the property and what makes it so popular.
Well, a lot of people know of Walkersons. We're a very older, established property in the area. been here since about 1993, and the setup has changed a little bit over the years. A lot has changed, and a lot is very much the same. In terms of the houses on the property, there's a lot more self-catering options as well as the hotel rooms. So we are on an 800-hectare estate. We've got 27 hotel rooms in the hotel complex, and then the hotel also owns 6 self-catering houses. So there's a little bit of something for everybody, and those want a bit of a more special pampered experience can stay in the hotel. And then the self-catering houses are great for those wanting to get away, or people with families wanting to have an experience where they can enjoy the facilities, but they can still have the flexibility of coming to the restaurant for meals or looking after themselves and having a nice braai in the evening or something like that.
Well, if you're listening to this and you've never been to Dullstroom, which is where Walkersons is, it's sort of 10 kilometers outside of the main street of Dullstroom, the little town of Dullstroom, which is 3 hours away from Johannesburg. It kind of has this very sort of, I don't know, Scottish Highlands feel. A lot of people refer to it like that with, in winter you get quite a bit of fog. It's got these beautiful lakes where you can go fly fishing, and it's got these sort of rolling hills, and it's very peaceful, very tranquil. You've got also like a bit of forestry around you, so it's very sort of a country escape for most people, isn't it?
It is, and I always describe it as our little bubble. For those who have visited us, there's this windy driveway that comes down from the main road, as you say, 10 k's out of Dullstroom. So once you come down that driveway, you feel like you're a lot further than 10 k's away from the town, and we really are in our own little bubble down here in the valley, set with these big rolling hills on each side of us, and then the river running through the property at the foot of the valley. It is absolutely beautiful, and yes, very much like the Scottish Highlands. And in winter we have fireplaces everywhere. Every room has a fireplace. The dining room has 3 fireplaces, and everywhere you turn there is a beautiful fireplace, and it's the perfect opportunity for a good glass of red wine and to cozy up next to the fire. We get really cold temperatures here in the winter, which is a great excuse to cuddle up with a wine.
Well, listen, I think there's any good excuse to cuddle up with a glass of red wine, but I do love the fact that there's a fireplace in all the rooms. It's something that not many people always have at home, and if they do, it's sort of always like a bit of a mission, or, you kind of, I'm in awe if you're going to turn it on, whereas here you kind of think, like I'm on holiday, I might as well make the best of it. And it's really the space lends itself just to kind of switch off and to kind of just take in the silence and the environment around you.
It's exactly that. I always say as well, it's one of those places you can do as little or as much as you want to do. We've got beautiful walks, activities like fly fishing, people to go out on bicycles where they bring their own or hire from us. So for those who are active, there's a lot of outdoor activities you can do. If you're like me, I would much rather be putting my feet up on the terrace with a nice gin and tonic, and that's how I'd spend my afternoon. But yeah, you can either be really active and get out and do those things, or if you just want chill time and a bit of pamper time, you can chill out on the terrace or at your room, go to the spa for a lovely massage or a treatment at the spa. So it really is something for everybody here.
It almost sounds a bit like the sort of perfect couples getaway. If you're talking about all these sort of very romantic and very sort of like things to do together, but it's also a very popular destination with families. And I see you've also got sort of 2 different dining rooms even for that, where you've got a dining room which is a bit more private and a bit more sedate, and then you've got the one that's sort of more orientated towards families as well.
Exactly. We have evolved over the years, and tried to be a lot more family friendly, but still cater for that market of the couples who want to get away and don't want children under their feet all the time. So like you say, we do have different dining areas. In our main dining room, the Flying Scotsman, we don't allow any children under the age of 12. And I think a lot of families actually appreciate that. Moms say it's so great to have an area where they can let their children go a little bit wild, and they don't have to worry about their kids going under somebody's table who's trying to have a romantic dinner. So it's generally appreciated from both sides, and it works very well for us.
Now, Dullstroom is, at the best of times, I think, always a very popular destination to go to, either for those who like to do a weekend away, because it's only 3 hours out of Johannesburg, or for those who are actually on their way to the Kruger. And I think if you're listening from overseas and you've got a plan to go to the Kruger, which is always a very popular destination with overseas tourists, Dullstroom is a great little place to kind of stop over for 1 or 2 nights on the way to the Kruger, because it can be quite a drive. It's 6-7 hours, if you have a bit of a break in between. So you can kind of stop over in Dullstroom on the way to the Kruger, take 1 to 2 nights and then carry on. How's it been trading over the last couple of weeks? You know, given that we've been in lockdown, given that we've had a very challenging time in the hospitality sector.
Well, we've been blown away. We really did not expect to have the influx of guests that we've had. It's been phenomenal. We're trying very hard to manage all the protocols in accordance with not only government regulations, but industry standards. And yes, sometimes I think we need to build another 10 rooms. I think everybody's just so desperate to get out and about after lockdown. And like you say, Dullstroom is the perfect getaway. It's only a couple of hours drive, and it's quite an easy drive down the N4. So it's a great escape. And yeah, the business, the bookings are flying in, which is great. And people do use us as the one night stopover, but a lot of people who come to Walkersons and think that it's just a stopover to the Lowveld, the next time they come back, they spend 2 or 3 nights because they realize we are so much more than just that one night stopover. But it is your perfect way to break that journey to the Lowveld.
So what kind of protocols have you put in place? I mean, you just touched on it briefly, but I know that there's still a lot of people who are a little bit haphazard of going out right now, and you know, they're super cautious, which I think a lot of people are very justified in being, but I think things have been easing up quite a bit. I think a lot of restaurants, a lot of hospitality hosts have been very good in putting the right things in place to kind of make you feel more comfortable. What are some of the things that you've put in place to kind of just ease the tortured soul that doesn't want to go anywhere?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's just following the protocols, like wearing of masks until guests are seated at their tables, trying to definitely enforcing that, sometimes a little bit more difficult than people anticipate. Social distancing, especially in the restaurant areas, we have removed tables and restructured our seating plans to make sure there's more space between tables. Obviously, all the protocols back of house and with staff in terms of taking temperatures and recording everything, changing housekeeping protocols where as much as possible we never put an arrival room into a departure room, so it gives housekeeping more time and there is more time in between guest stayovers, as well as following all the new sanitizing protocols. I think we all have quite a high alcohol blood level right now because there is a lot of alcohol-based sanitizer floating around. But yes, it is. We really have taken note of all the industry standards that are out there and put those into place. Obviously, screening of our guests on arrival, keeping notes, logs of temperatures and contact details and all of that. So, yeah, we'll see what the next few days hold, if any different announcements are made, and hopefully we can increase our capacity to welcome more people back, because we are operating at a decreased capacity right now.
Are you also finding that you've adjusted your rates during this time, up until some certain point?
Well, we've got some fantastic specials for South Africans at the moment, and it looks like international borders might be opening up sooner than we expected, so now's the time to take advantage of those great specials. We have a weekend special where there's a 30% discount on 2-night stays, and we've actually got a fantastic midweek special, so from Sunday to Thursday night, we're offering a 50% discount on all hotel rooms.
Wow.
So that is absolutely amazing. So where you could maybe only scrape through to get here for 1 night, now you can stay for 2 at the same price.
I think that's really fantastic, and I think a lot of South Africans aren't always necessarily aware of that. And like you say, often we sit there and we think, oh, you know what, like it's not going to happen because it might be a little bit out of my league. But now is a great time to actually be traveling. I actually bumped into these ladies that were also traveling around South Africa, and they've actually made it a bit of a thing. It feels like they're doing like a road trip. Like they're literally going from hotel to hotel, lodge to lodge, 2 nights each, and literally almost ticking off a bucket list of places they've always wanted to go to, but they've never really kind of had the budget or the inclination to make it happen in the past. And now, because everyone's kind of being quite generous in terms of the way that they're structuring their rates, it's such a great time to get out and do those things. Kate, also one of the big parts of going somewhere and staying over somewhere is also the food is such a big part of it. And we had the most incredible oats this morning for breakfast with some cream and a splash of whiskey, which I thought was fantastic. It tasted incredible.
Well, that's in keeping with the Scottish Highlands theme. There's whiskey fried kippers, there's whiskey in your oats. We throw whiskey into quite a few things. But food is a big part of our whole destination as such. The kitchen has got an incredible team. Most of our team have been here for a good number of years. And our guests have the opportunity when they book of either booking on a bed and breakfast rate or a dinner bed and breakfast rate. And our inclusive dinner that we offer is a 4-course set menu. So even if you've booked on a bed and breakfast rate and want to treat yourself on one of the nights to have the whole set menu, and then the other night to have something lighter off our a la carte menu, again, there's quite a few choices available to people. And if you're passing and just want to pop in for scones and tea, that's also something that we have a huge number of guests popping in on weekends who may not be staying with us, and they just come down for our delicious scones and tea, or our Highland platter, which is sort of like a ploughman's platter, which goes fabulously with a glass of wine. You can see where I keep going back to the gin and the wine.
Kate, I can see you're a lady after my own heart here, all in moderation, but it sounds like a real treat. And also, once again, a nice little breakfast stopover as well. If you're on your way to somewhere, you can pop in probably for breakfast.
Exactly.
And enjoy a sort of a halfway stop breakfast. And we have the breakfast morning. I can highly recommend the Eggs Benedict. I thought they were really good. Is a lot of the produce sourced sort of locally, or how does that work?
We do try and use as much local produce as possible. Unfortunately, Dullstroom, with its cold weather, is not the prime growing area, but a lot of the produce comes from the Lowveld. In berry season, we have some beautiful cherry and berry farms that surround us and are our neighbours, and then we get beautiful organic blueberries and cherries. That's more in the summer months, so we're holding out for that. But we do try and source, if not very locally, from the Lowveld areas where the produce is grown mainly.
Well, you've also got a really nice wine cellar as well, which looks really well kitted out. Is that also quite a big part of the whole dining and food experience as well here?
It is very much so, and again, a bit of my passion sneaking in there. I'm quite happy to taste and make sure the quality is up to standard, but it is something we have prided ourselves in the last at least 10 years of entering the Diners Club Wine List Awards, and we've ranked right in the top over the last couple of years. And again, we try and make it that mix of, there is something, if you just want a nice glass of crisp white wine with your lunch, or if you want to go all out tonight and have that beautiful bottle of really good red, there is something on that wine list for everybody's palate and purse.
Now, what are your predictions, or what's your outlook in terms of the rest of the year leading up to December? Because the year's almost over. It's actually incredible. We've got like 3-4 months to go, and it's the end of 2020, a year that probably a lot of people are quite happy to see the end of. But what's your outlook going into December and into 2021 in terms of occupancies and in terms of the industry kind of picking up again?
Well, it's really hard to say because, like I say, our socks have been blown off, and we really did not expect to get the response that we've got in the last couple of weeks of opening. And I think we're incredibly blessed to be in this position, because a lot of places aren't. And our proximity to Joburg, Pretoria helps that a lot. I think the specials we've put out there has nudged that over the line too, and word of mouth. Hopefully it will continue through to the end of the year. I think December, we're hoping that a lot of guests who may have gone overseas and aren't able to now for various reasons will maybe holiday for longer periods locally. So we're already seeing some good inquiries coming through for December for slightly longer stays than people normally stay with us. An average stay is normally 2 or 3 nights. We're getting bookings for 5 to 7 nights for December. So yeah, if people are looking for that December getaway, it's filling up fast. Get in there now.
Well, talking about filling up fast, you've also got a long weekend coming up in September, and that's probably
We're pretty much fully booked.
Chock-a-block. Okay, well, you missed that boat. That ship has sailed. But is Dullstroom doing quite a bit in terms of making that weekend really exciting and really interesting?
They are. There's quite a few people doing things in town. They are starting to put together sort of a farmers market, which is going to be launched on that weekend. We are working together, a group of the business owners, to try and consolidate that we market the town as a destination more. So that's in its early phases, and we're hoping that more of that is going to come out in the next week or two, so that we can all share each other's social media posts and share information better than we have been doing in the last couple of months.
So would you say that that's something that's been quite positive that's come out of all of this lockdown and business slowdown, is that businesses have had to kind of team up, maybe rethink the way that you're not just marketing yourself but strategizing on behalf of a destination or a town, rather than everyone sort of heading off in their own direction and hoping for the best?
Most definitely. I think it really has been a time for creative thinking and thinking out the box and teamwork between businesses. And, the hotel down the road is not your competition. It's how can you work together to bring more people to your town. And I think Dullstroom is really stepping up to that. And, I think there's some very positive things coming up in the future. And I think a little town is going to be going from strength to strength.
Okay, it sounds absolutely fantastic. I mean, we're loving our time here, and the weather is warm, even though it's a little bit windy, but it's beautiful. I mean, there's no cloud cover. It's, just a nice country day with the leaves blowing in the wind, and, you might hear the odd sort of background noise of birds chirping or something happening on the outside. But it's wonderful being here. Thank you so much for hosting us. We wish you all the best for Walkersons as you go into this last quarter of 2020 and well into 2021.
Thank you so much, and it's been great to have you guys visiting us.
On that note, let's get into stories making headlines in Sandton for this week. And as always, this update is brought to you by megaflightdeals.com, your one-stop for non-stop cheap flights. So there's been some bird hides that have been refurbished. The Randburg Sun reports that the Rotary Club of Sandton, with the support of the Johannesburg City Parks and Zoos, spent this past week repairing and refurbishing 2 bird hides at Delta Park. The park is home to the Florence Bloom Bird Sanctuary, which hosts a variety of bird species. The bird hides were originally built many years ago through a partnership with the Rotary Club itself, and over the recent years the facility became a victim of vandalism. So there's some good news to kick off with. Almost a fifth of residential rental properties in Sandton are now standing empty. Business Insider South Africa reports demand is at a record low while the supply of properties is still high, says the Tenant Profile Network, a credit bureau that tracks tenant payment behavior. Landlords will have to offer lower rent and sweeteners like the first month's rent-free, no deposit and new appliances to attract tenants, according to TPN. According to the TPN data as well, the demand for rental property is now the lowest on record, while supply is at a historic high. This resulted in the number of rental properties standing empty increasing by more than 50% since the start of the year. In Gauteng, TPN is reporting staggering vacancies in Randburg, which is at about 18.3%, Sandton, which is at about 19.2%, and Soweto, which is at 19.4%. So not great news coming out of the property sector there. Then South African Fashion Week finds a new home. The SouthAfrican.com reports that SA Fashion Week organisation has decided to move their home from Sandton City to a larger facility and recently signed a 3-year partnership with the Mall of Africa, where they will host their first hybrid designer collection this October. South African Fashion Week director Lucilla Boyson explained that the 2020 South African Fashion Week collections are trans-seasonal, in line with international trends, towards collections that are incorporating a cool and warm weather element. She said the collection also shows a move towards a slow fashion ethos of timeless design and sustainable production. Then Alex is now connected with free Wi-Fi at the Pan-African Taxi Rank. Alex News reporting Alex residents can now enjoy free Wi-Fi connectivity as they do their shopping at the Pan-African Mall or boarding taxis. This is courtesy of Connecta, spelled Konecta, a Sandton-based ICT company that specializes in building wireless network connectivity platforms using Wi-Fi. I mean, so many of us could not imagine what it's like without Wi-Fi, and we're experiencing it firsthand, traveling through Mpumalanga and just some of these destinations that are not too far away from Johannesburg, and you see immediately what it's like. There's no Wi-Fi, and it makes things a little bit more difficult when you're trying to communicate or record a podcast or do anything online. So good on Connecta for connecting Alex. Then 2 Bryanston runners have restored safety to their streets. U Magazine reports 2 women from Bryanston, Johannesburg decided to take matters in their own hands and come up with a safer way to get their regular running fix. Kerry Harrison and Nikki Robertson recently established Free to Run SA, an initiative that invites neighborhood security companies to patrol their running routes during peak times. The idea came about after a spate of attacks on runners and walkers in their area during lockdown. The patrolled running routes are usually shared on the Free to Run SA Facebook page as a Strava link, a mobile app that gives multiple users access to synced routes. There you have it. That's your stories making headlines in Sandton for this week. And it's a sweet but short podcast this week. And let's get straight into our events guide for this week. Let's kick off with Katie's Palace Bar, which is open this Friday. It's Friday bar night with a new menu and DJ Louis Almeida, who'll be making sure the music is flowing. They open from 2 p.m. Then Billy the Bums 4 Ways. They open this Friday from 7 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. with Craig White, and Saturday from 5:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. with Don Vito and Shawnee B. Then Tigers Milk Bryanston, well, it's comedy night on this Thursday with Skulk Poseidon Hout, and tickets are R100 per person. Then Altitude Beach Club 4 Ways open this weekend from Thursday to Sunday, 12 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. with an array of DJs, a list too long to even begin to recite. Bookings are limited and no under 23s. Then the Beach Rivonia is open on Friday. It's Switch Fridays from 1 p.m. till 9:30 p.m. And then on Saturday, it's a Hawaiian luau beach party. And on Sunday, they're Beach Bry Sundays with a buy one, get one free promo on cocktails and beer jugs. Masks are essential and no under 23s. Then the Greenhouse in Rosebank, well, this weekend only, it's the Clubhouse by Flying Fish. Complimentary flying fish for every patron, no walk-ins, and bookings are essential. And as always, the Grand in Rivonia is open, trading Monday to Sunday from 12 noon to 9:45 p.m. Entrance fee includes food and is R500. So that's it for the events guide for this week, and that's also it for the Sandton Times podcast for this week. It's been great being in Dullstroom. We've had such a fantastic time here at Walkersons Hotel and Spa, and please do check out their website and get some of those fantastic rates that they're offering at the moment to get maybe a bit of a breakaway, maybe a weekend getaway, and just take in some of the fantastic local travel that you can do during this time. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to connect with us, don't forget you can email editor@sandtontimes.co.za. You can connect with the Sandton Times at Sandton Times on social media. Don't forget to visit the blog at sandtontimes.co.za. And then you can subscribe, share, and leave a review and rating for this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Thank you to my guest for today, and we're halfway through September, believe it or not, and we're on the brink of going into the last quarter of 2020. It's absolutely unbelievable. Level 1 is around the corner, so let's connect again next week. I'm off to the Kruger National Park. Thanks for listening, and stay safe.